Alright, what's going on, guys? It is time for another scrolling through my IG now. It has been quite an eventful week, hasn't it? Some would even say a vindicating week for myself and longtime subscribers of my channel. So as everybody knows, Solomon dropped the bomb, the viral video just dunking on Mike's PhD, over 1 million views. And longtime viewers of my channel, you guys know that I've been very suspect of Mike's PhD for a long time. For those of you who aren't aware, this is something that I called almost 2 years ago.
Let me share with you, let me show you how Dr. Mike earned his doctor status, okay? All right, so this is his dissertation, The Interrelationships of Fitness Characteristics in Division I Athletes. Okay, so let's see what kind of amazing novel work that Dr. Mike was working on. Analysis revealed several important relationships. Leaner athletes outperform less lean athletes in almost every metric, especially relative strength and power, vertical jumping ability, and sprinting ability. Bravo. Thank you, Dr. Mike. Thank you for this brave and groundbreaking research, letting us know that fat people can't jump high. PhD. And now you can be the fitness authority to everybody. I mean, I gotta admit, it's not a bad grift, okay? You get into the only school that offers this shitty PhD, you do a horrible dissertation that's not gonna get a lot of scrutiny because it's the only program in the country, and now you are the go-to fitness authority for all things in the whole entire industry. So congratulations, I'm not hating, it's a good grift.
Now, when I made that video, that was still at a time where Mike was practically revered, and I just got all kinds of hate comments and shit on by everybody from the videos that I posted and from the Reddit. I felt like I was a crazy person trying to point out this super obvious thing to everybody who was just like under some weird hypnosis or in the Matrix or something. And so my old videos about Mike have picked up a lot of views recently because of Solomon helping my algorithm out. And so I've been getting a lot of comments and things like this. People saying, not gonna lie, I'm glad Solomon took down Mike, but watching that you were on this first is like a universal injustice that you didn't go viral. And I just gotta say, like, I don't feel like that at all. I think Solomon did awesome. Like, all I did was get a little high, read a abstract, and just kind of draw some conclusions based off of that. And it was pretty obvious to me. And I did have somebody send me the full dissertation later, and I went through it and I saw how bad it was, but at that time, people weren't in a position to receive what I had to say. Like I made my first video about Mike on February 22nd of 2024, which is hilarious because Solomon made his first video 2 days later on February 24th of 2024. So it's like there was something out there in the ether that we were both kind of feeling at the same time. It's funny how that happens, but it's like I think like almost simultaneously, both of us were just like, we've got to expose this fucking guy for what he really is. And Solomon and Lyle went after all these other aspects of him, and I went after his biomechanics. And I think together we all had a pretty big impact. And now obviously it's much greater now that Solomon's video has gone so viral. And so even though I kind of joke around and say I feel like vindicated, like I already felt that way like 6 months ago. Like anybody who didn't have anything to benefit from sucking on Mike's balls or who wasn't just a total like idiot, they already jumped off that ship a long time ago. Like I think he lost his credibility with most people that I respect a long time before this, but this is good because it's going to keep him from getting a ton of new, uneducated, easy to influence lifters. You know, the thing that they used to point to, you know, because you can never point to his physique. He had a horrible physique, especially for the amount of drugs that he took. You can never point to his personality or how he's such a good guy. He's got the craziest ego, is one of the biggest narcissists to ever live. They used to point to his degree, his academics. He's got a PhD, and it's like now these people have nothing to cling on to, which is funny because now they're like, well, I don't care about that. He's still a net positive and did good, and I like the information he gives. When before these were the people that were throwing out his PhD as a appeal to authority. So it's kind of funny, and I do think that the net positive thing is just total bullshit because Mike did so much harm just because he helped a lot of people by giving them the most basic information out there. They could have got that from a Google search in 10 minutes and then not have had to watch Mike with his horrible takes on diet and all things health and his horrible biomechanics. So no, I don't think he was a net positive at all. I think those people would have been just fine if he wasn't around. So I'm just gonna look at some of these comments, see if there's anything funny. This person's talking about the Reddit post that I made and how it felt surreal seeing that much defense of him now, which was, yeah, that's very true. Everyone's shit all over me. In fact, I got banned, basically, for posting about Mike. So everybody came after the PhD drama, and like, look at this post. Thank you, Solomon, for indirectly leading me to better sources of information on fitness. So, I mean, this is what I like. Some people are like asking like, oh, do you feel like bummed out that you didn't go viral? You're not cashing in on this? I'm like, bro, I'm just happy that Solomon did his thing because he reached way more people than I would have. And now these are just people that are going to be open to learning from different sources like me and other people in the field who don't rely on a shitty PhD as our marketing tool. And people have been asking me for like, I don't know, like over a year now to get Solomon on the podcast, and I would like to. We were talking and talking about doing it, and he just kind of went MIA. I'm sure he's got a lot going on right now with all this, but it'd be cool to get him on. But originally, like, I didn't reach out to him just because we were kind of doing the same thing, and also I was trying to not really get like thought of. I didn't want to be thought of as like the anti Mr Mike guy. I didn't want to just be known for talking shit on him, even though I think what Solomon did was awesome. I think that's really necessary. I was trying to get a little bit more known for like the expansion compression model, biomechanics, how it applies, specifically for bodybuilders, for longevity, etc. So it's like you kind of get a little different audience, people that watch like takedown videos versus people that watch really deep biomechanic videos involving the expansion compression model. So I wanted to kind of cultivate my audience a little bit more towards that. So that's the only reason why I didn't reach out to him before. And that's also why I haven't like posted more Mike stuff. Like I get requests to post Mike stuff all the time. And I just, like I said, I kind of want to separate myself from that to some extent. I've said like everything I had to say basically, and now there's not that many people left to convince, but this definitely had to this definitely warranted a response, like everything that's gone over the last week or so, because this is going to make a difference. And I know a lot of people say it's not going to really hurt him, and no, it's not going to hurt him like financially, but he's lost his credibility with any new lifter. Anybody else who comes in, they're going to start looking up his stuff, and then they're going to see someone in the comments talking about his fake PhD, and they're going to be like, oh, okay, I almost got duped into it. Like in some ways it seems like it might be shitty to be like happy to see someone's downfall, but I just saw all the damage he was doing. I saw the people that were trying to do his style of range of motion, RP strength stuff, taking his advice and doing high volume with terrible technique, like basically lifting high volume like a powerlifter, which is worse than lifting low volume like a powerlifter does. And he's 100% the reason why I decided to even start posting and doing any social media at all, is because I directly wanted to counter some of the harm that he was doing in terms of teaching biomechanics, at least. So, damn, this guy nailed it 2 years ago. This one is hilarious. This is why I titled the video this, "You Were the Prophet, Solomon is the Messiah," which is hilarious. I remembered your section about the PhD when the Solomon video came out. You're really ahead of your time. You're ahead of the curve. The video was so much ahead of time. It's amazing. Dude, you were so close to a gold mine. Like I said, I'm fine. I'm totally okay that this shitty video of me a year ago where I wasn't even talking with a microphone didn't go viral. I don't expect it to. And then here is the post that I originally made on Reddit that got me banned, and like I felt like I was just a crazy person. Like you guys are too young to know Invasion of the Body Snatchers for that analogy, but I felt like everybody else was just crazy and couldn't see the most obvious thing. So like I just ranted in this huge thing, and then yeah, I got tons of hate. And honestly, I think More Plates, More Dates mods made a big mistake in banning me, because really when you think about it, all I did was post this video and then this video a year apart. So I posted my first video I ever made, and then I posted the 20th video after that. So I definitely wasn't spamming the Reddit, and this one was probably even worse. Like, bro, why do you post this after the giant L you took on the other video you posted? Shut the fuck up. If my credentials are so trash, then what are your credentials? Bro didn't get enough hate on the first one of these. So I don't know, it's just funny how I wonder what all these people would be saying now. And so this is what I'm talking about. At this point, Mike has his own Instagram kind of overflooded by people that are sick of his shit. Here he has somebody kind of defending him, saying it's not a big deal. It's got 1,180 likes. And then down here, we got someone just talking mad shit, which is hilarious, over 1,200 likes. So for somebody like Mike, whose ego is actually like so fragile, this has got to be like fucking him up mentally. Hopefully he doesn't do anything crazy, like get some, I don't know, random, invasive, non-necessary plastic surgery or something. No, wait. So, I mean, I think the end result of this is going to be very positive. I think Solomon's video is going to help people realize that they probably shouldn't put people up on such a high pedestal and take everything that they say as gospel, especially if there's somebody like Mike who claims to be an expert in like every area of fitness. Like, you'll never hear me talk like I'm an expert in anything besides biomechanics from like an ECM lens, which I don't even know if I'm an expert in that, really. I'm getting there. But people are starting to understand that, especially in exercise science, like higher education doesn't necessarily mean more practical knowledge. And that's true in everything, but especially exercise science. Like I said, hopefully me and Solomon can link up, do the pod, and then after that, I don't ever want to talk about Mike again. I think we're done. I think mission has been accomplished. Thank you guys who have supported me along the way, and thank you guys who have converted. I get tons of messages all the time from people that used to be RP fans, RP followers who now have like saw the light and kind of do things what I would say is a little bit better way. And thank you very much for being willing to listen, whether it was early on your journey or later. At least you found found out that Mike was full of shit. More plates, more dates, subreddit. You fucked up, banning me. I didn't spam the place. I have a lot to offer, actually, to the subreddit. I was on the MISC board on bodybuilding.com from 2002 to 2008. That was during the Wild West era. So I'm an OG, and this might not make sense to you if you don't know the More Plates, More Dates subreddit at all. But I also could provide other benefits, like I know like how to keep it the right amount of gay to not go overboard, okay? And I also could give advice to young men who are just starting their anabolic journey, especially ones who are experimenting with trim the first time. It can help guide them through their changing tastes and experiences, and maybe stop them from taking down a morbidly obese baddie while they're on 600 mgs of trim, to keep them from doing something they're going to regret. No, I'm just joking. You never regret taking down a morbidly obese baddie when you're on trim. But you know what? It's all good. It probably is much better for me not to have the More Plates, More Dates subreddit infiltrate my psyche to any degree at all. 7.1, 5.5. All right, so up next, we're going to check out a regular of this series, and that is Ben Yanis, who, like I said before, I actually agree with the vast majority of pretty much everything that Ben puts out. Both the things that we do disagree on, I think, are really good to look at and examine the nuances, because that's really where the disagreement comes in. It's just small nuances, nothing really that big. So let's check out what he's saying about doing shoulder flies.
So a pro tip for dumbbell lateral raises that not many people seem to know is, instead of holding the dumbbell like this, like with a straight wrist, just allow your wrist to be floppy.
Allow your wrist to be floppy. Now, to me, this is one of those things that just intuitively your brain and body is like, it doesn't sound or even feel like quite right. And there's a lot of things like that kind of make sense once you can look at things through an ECM lens. So if you're going to go floppy wrist, one thing you got to understand is that distal compression, that flex position, is going to create more proximal compression upstream. So you're going to get more internal rotation, kind of bias of the humerus. You're going to get more anterior compression, and that's something that the vast majority of people aren't going to want or benefit from.
You'll allow your wrist to be floppy like this. The line of force basically just goes straight down through your wrist, so you don't actually have to do anything to really hold your wrist up.
To me, this just shows like a little bit too much focus on the whole lever model theory that is usually taught, because you're just thinking about lines of tension and 2D things, when, like I said, we need to think about how things impact the system as a whole. Because when I look at things through an ECM lens, I know that as soon as I start changing shape, it does impact more things than just moment arm and lines of pull.
Right, so instead of this, it's this.
So if you see what happened, I'll rewind this a little bit, see if you can notice this. As soon as he flexes his wrist, his humerus internally rotates. And that's what's going to happen. It's more compressive. Like I said, it's going to create more compression upstream. That's going to internally rotate your humerus. That's going to internally rotate your scapula as well. So just bending that wrist is having that whole impact upstream. Now, for somebody like Ben, who is what we would call more of a narrow ISA, and if you've seen my content, you know what I'm talking about. This all comes from Bill Hartman. Ben's more of a narrow ISA. He's more external rotation bias. So a lot of times with narrow ISAs, the scapula kind of like floats on their back of the rib cage, because it's kind of like stuck in expansion. So it can kind of elevate a little bit, but it really doesn't like grab onto that rib cage. It's too ER bias. So doing a little like floppy wrist move that can pull you into internal rotation, that can bias you towards where you're lacking, and that can get your scapula to internally rotate by like upwardly rotating, grabbing on to your rib cage a little bit more, and that could help potentially drive tension to your delts if you're not able to. Because a lot of times with narrows, you see they almost go like behind the shoulders with their elbows, or like they kind of like flop like into ER. So bending your wrist can kind of make you not want to do that compensation, but it really should just be like a teaching tool. You don't want to like do that all the time. And then for someone who is a wider ISA, who's going to be more biased towards internal rotation already, for them doing the bent wrist and biasing towards internal rotation, it's already putting them where they are, and they're going to have no space to work with. So for them, it's really not a good option like at all. That shoulder's already sitting forward. Now you're going to risk jamming up a lot of the stuff on the anterior compartment. So you don't have to be like straight arm, straight wrist, even like just give yourself a little bit. Like, why don't you just slide bend your elbows and give yourself like a 10% bend to the wrist, and that'll kind of fix a lot of the issues that you may be having without pushing you too far into that internal rotation bias and affecting the compression gradient upstream from the wrist. And if you are more narrow ISA biased and you do that, it may not put you in the right spot. There's a really good chance, especially if you're really compressed, that you're not able to get true internal rotation. You just end up shrugging and using more of your upper trap. So I really don't recommend this for most anybody at all, besides other than just a quick teaching tool like I was saying. Now, one thing that Ben talks about sometimes is he does this open palm stuff with a strap on, or he'll use the handle and he's doing like lateral raises like that. That's money. I think that's great. I actually think there's some good benefits to not always training with a closed fist. All right, so up next, we're going to talk about the upright row. And I know Athlete X gets a lot of hate, so people kind of just write off a lot of the stuff that he's put out there. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm 100% on board with him saying that the upright row, traditional way that it's done with a like narrow grip on a barbell, that's garbage. That is a dog shit exercise. And really, nobody, regardless of your archetype or goals, should really be doing that. So let's check this out.
I have what I call the iron graveyard, right? There's a few exercises that just belong in there. And one of them for me is the upright row. It's a garbage exercise. And you could tell me, no, there's no bad exercises. That's a bad exercise.
That's another thing that I agree with Jeff on. People say all the time, there's no bad exercise. I'm like, I would say there's no bad position. Like, you should be able to handle any position acutely without much issue. But when you repeatedly load like terrible positions, like I would say that's going to be a bad exercise. So something that does not allow the expansion compression cycle to occur, something that takes away the ability to expand, just leads to compression, that's what I would consider a bad exercise to load repetitively over time. And that's exactly what an upright row is. I mean, if you're doing an upright row, we're moving up through flexion and abduction and internal rotation. And so we're holding on a barbell. You got all these compressive things going on. So it's like holding on to a barbell, your wrists are going to be a little bit floppy, and we're trying to pull up into like shoulder flexion. And to do that, we need scapular upward rotations to get actual humeral internal rotation, to have that space for that to happen. But when we're pulling and we're in this internal rotated bias position already, it jams our scapula up. We've got nowhere to go. And so the compressive forces, they just get driven all to the front part of your shoulder blade, to like your supraspinatus potentially, to your bicep tendon. If you're more narrow ISA, you already can't really find true internal rotation. So this position, this super compressed position, puts you like in a fake internal rotation position. And so your traps are already elevated. So as you start to upright row, you end up shrugging up a lot of it, and you put a lot through your AC joint. If you are a wider ISA, you're already stuck in internal rotation. You're already compressed there. As you try to pull through it more, you don't have nowhere to go. And so you actually kind of like elevate the whole clavicle and the whole shoulder girdle, and so that's you get more supraspinatus issues if you're the wider ISA, and you get more AC joint issues if you're the narrow ISA typically. But neither presentation should be doing them.
I don't care if you haven't gotten hurt this time, but ultimately doing it over and over and over again can potentially cause a problem down the road.
Yeah, so all these claims about shoulder impingement have been pretty much debunked by evidence-based physical therapists who...
And there are evidence-based physical therapists that are just as shitty and annoying and nerdy as the evidence-based like fitness population. It does not mean that they are any better than the non-evidence-based people who do ECM or anything like that, because they present tons of evidence and research and studies that back their stuff as well. It's just finding true causation between things is always a tough thing. Like, once you understand the nuances of how the body works, you can just use your own physiological reason and see like, oh, well, I can see why that could create an issue for many people. So I don't know why people have such a hard time accepting that there are some exercises where it is just not worth the risk. Now, I think you can do upright row variations. I think if you add a little bit of external rotation in them, that can be really good. So a move I would do pretty often, I don't do it currently in my split, but I would get like dumbbells. I'd usually be seated and I kind of rock up, pull up through the upright row, and kind of let the the shoulders depress a little bit, and I do have a little bit of those flexed wrists I was just kind of talking shit about, but sometimes they can be a strategy that helps us drive compression where we want. And also sometimes I would do it on a Smith bar where I have a little wider grip and it's a little bit more in front of me. I can kind of get more space. It's going to create a little bit more posterior expansion capabilities. It's not so close to my body, and I'm not having like to stabilize it like I would if it was like not a fixed bar. So on a Smith machine is not a bad option either if you want to do that. But the ways that I prefer to do it are doing these monkey rows, which I think are awesome. These were something that were recommended to me by a viewer. Actually, I'd never done it before, and they feel really good. And you're in a position where you're not driving so much compressive internal rotation forces that you're going to feel no issues at all. I mean, this is a really underrated move. I don't see a lot of people who do this. I actually like it a lot. And so this would be one really good option to replace an upright row. And then this is another one that I really like. Now, you don't have to squat so much to get as much leg drive. You can just get a little bit of knee bend, but since I have that kind of like cross body pull and it's single arm, I'm going to clear that space. I'm not going to have to deal with that excessive compression, especially if you close down on that opposite side as you're pulling up through there. That's going to really allow you to like open up that side rib cage. The scapula is going to be able to upwardly rotate real nice, give you a lot of space in there for your humeral head to move. And so these are one of my favorites. And like I said, you can do this with more or less leg involvement. And I'm getting my arm going, so it's almost like a reciprocation. It's almost like alternating movement. And if you guys follow Weck Method or you've seen my podcast with him on it, he's somebody who just saw this stuff intuitively. Like if you look at this, technically I'm kind of coiled on my right side, and that's just the way my body's supposed to move. I'm not trying to do that for any reason, but I do think that he gets a ton of hate. But I think he was really on track with a lot of his thoughts and principles regarding the gait pattern and locomotion. So these are my two favorite upright row variations. And this one will really get the trap going. The other one get a lot of trap too. I'd say it gets a little more side delt than this one will though. So if you have to include an upright row, those are two great versions. I mean, I wouldn't say if you have to, those are great to include in it, but traditional close grip, it's a no-go. Kick it out. Okay, up next we have a discussion on inner versus outer biceps.
All right, everyone, on this episode of Making Shit Up, we have someone suggesting that simply changing your grip on an easy bar curl can alter which part of the biceps, inside or outside, you're targeting. So is this true? Absolutely not. Here's why.
And so he's going to pull out the dead guy anatomy to try to prove his point. And this is something where, again, we're talking about the nuances. At the end of the day, it's not going to make a huge difference to your biceps. Not huge, but it will make a difference. And you can see this difference when you look at most bodybuilders' arms, because most of their arms are different looking. Most of their biceps are different looking. And that's because usually they're lifting from a slightly different position from the shoulder. And so one is usually a little bit more internally rotated than the other, and so it biases different fibers. And so is it a big difference? No. But if you grab an easy bar on the wide grips and your arms are out by your side, they're a little wider, your scapula is a little more abducted, you're in more of a externally rotated expansion bias position. That's going to create a little bit of anterior expansion. You're actually going to be able to get stretch tension on the long head, on the more upper fibers of your bicep. And as you curl, they're going to be in a position to create a more efficient compression gradient along that line of pull. So it's not saying you're not going to get other things to help. They all kinds of things help creating that gradient, but you're going to get more from the upper fibers from the long head, which would be kind of more the outer part if you were to like look at it as far as inner and outer. If you go inner grip, your humerus becomes internally rotated, your scapula kind of gets more stuck in an internal rotation bias position. That gives us a more compressive start from the top. That's going to make us use a little bit more of the lower fibers, of the short head fibers on the inner part to go through that compression gradient as we're flexing. Now at the end, Ben talks about how you should just kind of pick the exercises that you like. That's what you should base your selection on, which I agree to a certain extent, but sometimes it's good to understand these things on a deeper level because you can start to maybe fix issues easier with your programming and not have to take time off for training or not have to do so much mobility work. Like, for example, I've recently started doing kind of like a long head bias workout on my right side, trying to hit more of the more proximal fibers, the upper arm, and I've been biasing the lower fibers on the left arm and the short head. And that is actually correcting a lot of imbalances upstream, fixing my shoulder mobility, fixing my shoulder heights. And so it's like I'm actually doing different exercises for one part of my arm than the other. So for my right arm, I was doing like bias and curls to be able to get that anterior expansion on the front part, to be able to recruit more of those upper fibers. And then on my left arm, I was doing like concentration curls where my humerus is more IR bias to counter the more ER bias my left shoulder normally sits in. And I'm going to get more of the short head, more of the distal fibers closer to the elbow. And I'm not saying everybody should do that, but you can dive really deep into this if you want. Like say you're somebody who is a really compressed narrow and you've got no real IR and you really kind of over bias expansion at the top. Doing that close grip might be a better option than doing something more expansive like an incline curl or something, because you need to push yourself a little bit more towards an internal rotation bias to remove some of the compressive strategies that you have. When you start over compressing just really specific areas from doing the same movement patterns over and over again, that starts to have a carryover to how you're building your muscle and how it actually looks. So a good example of that is looking at good old Jay. If you look at Jay, and Jay's always a great example of showing asymmetry because he's a perfect example of a wide who had a pretty good left AIC, right BC pattern underlying and just built a lot of muscle on top of it. So if you look at his biceps, this is what I'm talking about. I have a similar issue, and he's kind of biasing his left side more expanded, more of an external rotation bias, because we're more expanded to the front because, you know, we have this left AIC, right BC bias that our left side is a little hyperinflated. We have a little bit more posterior compression on that side, but being stuck in that kind of expanded state anteriorly, that's going to put your scapula a little more ER bias. It's going to put your humerus a little more ER bias. So you're going to be better at kind of recruiting these more proximal fibers. And you can see, look at Jay, just like me, although a lot different, way more striations and detail on the left upper arm than on the right. And this is super common. If you look at this, you'll see this pretty often among bodybuilders. So a lot of people like me, if you're in somewhat of a right BC pattern, you kind of over recruit from the lower fibers. I actually have a little bit of a bicep issue because I like picked up my kid, he wanted to jump, and I like fucked up the lower part of my arm. And the way I made it a lot better was I started really focusing on creating expansion up chain so that I could share the load, so I could actually create compression higher and not just force it all down towards these fibers that are like overdoing it and recovering. So it seems like it's so simple, like it's just a curl, and it is. Maybe you never need to know any of this stuff ever, but I really think understanding this gives you a big benefit long term in terms of health and in terms of having a balanced physique and not having crazy asymmetries either. So like I said, I bring Ben up a lot on here, but it's just because I think through his content and through our interactions, sometimes we can give you like a wider lens to look at biomechanics and just discover for yourself what you need to take and leave from each approach. All right, so up next, we are going to talk about functional patterns. Now, I get asked a lot about how I feel about functional patterns, and to be honest, I didn't really know what NADI and what the system was all about. So I did a little bit of looking into it, and they recently had Dorian Yates doing some of their moves. And, you know, when I look at this, I think the way Angus said it on the podcast we did together was really well put. We discussed NADI a little bit, but he said for somebody who's just always lived in a bilateral compressive state, essentially, for them to do some of this rotation stuff, or as he called it, to do a little cable twirly, is going to give you a little bit of movement options back, a little bit of space to work with, and you're going to feel better. So for someone like Dorian Yates, who just pushed his body to the extreme limits as hard as he could, like doing this kind of stuff is going to show him like immediate benefits. And I'm sure he feels awesome. And I'm sure that he's not somebody who is so like unattuned with their body that if they were doing something, he would be like doing it was a waste of time. Like he would be able to tell. Like you don't become as high a level of bodybuilder as he was without being connected. And these are all good moves. And these are all things that look kind of similar to things that I do, train things that I do. He's really kind of working a lot of the propulsive cycle, which I do a lot. And so I think this is great. I think that this kind of stuff potentially could be a really good option to kind of counterbalance some of the more compressive stuff that we're doing in the weight room. Now, I think some of it is a little silly for sure, but we could keep the principles at least, which is kind of what I do. I think their whole thing is like they're trying to get better at running. And I mean, so like they want to be the way we evolved to be, right? So they train sprinting and throwing and jumping, all that good stuff. But like something he talks about a lot is like how non-functional building muscle is and strength training is, when like I mean, first of all, I think that's ridiculous. But second of all, like I don't want to train to look like those skinny dudes did, you know, back in the day. I want to train to look jacked. So, I mean, Nadi has a physique that looks like he does nothing but functional pattern stuff. And maybe that's his goal. Maybe he kind of gravitated towards this because it was his only option as far as what he could actually do with his physique. But I think that there's a middle ground. I don't think you have to only do this stuff. Like, we're not that fragile. It's like every single exercise that they do kind of tries to take you through like the full propulsive cycle. It looks like running is their everything. And so they'll do all these kind of wonky little exercises, or the cable twirlies, as Angus put it. And so I don't know, I just feel like they just limit themselves to a little bit too much of just exclusively the wonky kind of weird exercises, taking you through the whole propulsive cycle, when it's like you don't have to take every single exercise through that. I mean, there may be some benefits for sure, but to only do that, I think you're missing out on building muscle and building pressure management strategies as well. So here, the functional patterns guy is kind of critiquing the same video that I've critiqued a couple times about how horrible of a hinge this is. And they title it How to Herniate Your Lumbar Spine, which this is a terrible hinge in RDL, but it's not really how you herniate your spine. That's usually under flexion load. This could cause some stenosis and other issues for sure. Let's see what he has to say.
It's fine. Barbell deadlifts. Do them a lot. Hit this excessive range of motion and keep stacking weight on there. It's not to say that we'll never find this position in daily life. We have to bend down and pick things up, but repetitive loading of the spine in the sagittal plane ultimately leads to damage. You're better off focusing on exercises with more of the spinal dynamics that relate to how we walk and run. This is how you build up balance.
So like I said, it's like you can only train through the full propulsive cycle. That's it. Like an exercise has no validity unless it can be taken through the whole cycle. When I think about the propulsive cycle all the time on my workouts, I'm thinking about it in terms of like my scapula and humeral position. I'm thinking about it in terms of my interrotation at my hips and my foot contacts. It's like once you understand it and how to maximize like whatever range that exercise is designed to take you through, that's really all you need. And you won't fuck up your ability to run, Like, so if I'm doing a hack squat, so essentially I'm trying to keep that in as much internal rotation as possible. I'm trying to keep that in the position where my quads are going to produce the most force as possible in that internal rotated position. So if you understand the gait cycle through Bill Hartman's model, you know that that's going to be really pretty much through mid propulsion. And that's basically the part where you have made heel contact and your foot's flat, to the part where you've shifted weight forward and now you've got weight pretty heavy on the first med head and inner heel, maybe to the point where the arch is starting to flatten slightly before the heel gets lifted at all. And so what I do when I'm doing a squat pattern is I'm thinking about maximizing tension through that mid-propulsive range. You could break that down into even more categories. You could break that down to early and late mid-propulsion. And so when I'm squatting, I'm thinking about weight starting on my inner heels and start drifting towards the first med head as I'm going down. Not losing the outer part, not losing my pinky toe, but keeping internal rotation and feeling the foot contacts change almost to the point where my arch is going flat with knee drives going forward. And essentially from there, I've maxed out the mid-propulsive cycle. I don't need to now try to like take another step and turn this into some sort of propulsive thing and add a forward lunge, twist to a side lunge to it to get benefits from it. Like maximizing and keeping that propulsive cycle like clean and not fucking it up, not going into excessive external rotation and pushing tension everywhere else and getting compressed and locking up things that should be moving. Like that's going to be counterproductive for running and for having a good gait cycle. But when you work out the right way, you don't really like fuck up your gait cycle that bad. And the best way to get better at running isn't going to be to do a bunch of cable twirlies and weird exercises. It's going to be to run. Like if you get out there and you do a little bit of running and you work out in a way that's not creating excessive compression and locking everything up together, you're going to be fine. You don't need to get this obsessive about propulsion. And I love me some propulsion. Okay, so like I said, I'm not above doing some wacky shit. I mean, look at this. This could qualify as some functional pattern shit, I feel like. But at the same time, I don't think that there's anything wrong with lifting heavy weight up off the ground with good technique, especially if you do other expansive movements to balance it out. I don't think that, if you decide you want to squat with a weight on your back, that you've just fucked yourself up beyond repair. Like, I don't think we're that fragile at all. So, I mean, you just got to know what you're doing. If you live in a compressive state and all you do is, shoulders back, squeeze, bilateral movements, then yeah, like you're going to be all fucked up and you're going to move bad. And that might give the impression that lifting like a bodybuilder is negative and nobody should do it. But if you're aware of the pressure dynamics and you have a little bit of this ECM mindset, you're not going to get yourself to that state. And you're not going to have to be afraid of putting on muscle or working out hard. So the problem is, like, I see him talking about the gait cycle. Here he's talking about this side being compressed. It's like they use a lot of the same terms and same focus, scoliosis. They do a lot of the same stuff that I do to a certain degree, but it's like they stop. Here they talk about pressure management, but it's like they stop before they finish the job of actually doing strength training. So, like, look at this little kid. Like, I mean, I don't have a problem with some of the stuff they're doing necessarily, but it's this kid needs lean body mass. Sometimes some of your issues just get better by having muscle, having more tension, more like tone to your body, especially if you are somebody who doesn't have the best pressure management. That can actually help. And so, awesome, this is cool, but let's also, man, let's do some shoulders. Let's do some presses. Let's do some pick up some weights off the floor. I think you'll be okay. And it's not like everything you has to do has to be the most compressive style either. Like, you don't have to do a low bar back squat. Like, what if you were to do like a Zercher squat? You know, are you that afraid of compression? What if you were to do like a split squat loaded? Would that be okay? Or do you have to add a cable twirly to the end of it for it to have any real value? So again, I actually like a lot of the stuff I'm seeing, but I think this kid needs to focus on putting on some muscle as well. And the other thing I have noticed with a lot of the people, they start living in extension a lot too. Like, that's not really a great look. I mean, I think that he's really starting to show some issues that a lot of compressed narrows have with the belly pooch and stuff. So it's like he had a 10 out of 10 pain, but he looked way better here. Look, he had like a line in his abs. His shoulders looked a little broader. You know, he's a little skinnier, but like now he looks like worse. So I don't know. I'm glad you're not in pain, but you can not be in pain and look better too. Like he's presenting a way now that he's got that distension because he's kind of altered his airflow a little bit. So I'm actually not that impressed with this one. And like I said, I think he needs some resistance training. And I don't see how you can like say doing some weird shit like this is so much better than doing some strength training, than doing some biceps. This is my guy Runvis is calling him out, making fun of him. We had a great podcast. Oh, look though, like he did a really cool like twirly thing at the end of it. I mean, if you want to be good at twirling, functional patterns is your jam. Looks like. Does that make it better that he did that? Like, is he just like cosplaying life like he's a ninja? What is this? What? Oh, so smooth. Like that was so unnecessary. Yeah, I like Rumbus a lot. He's pretty fucking funny. Check out his shit. So here he is doing more of the twirlies and sprinting around with no delts whatsoever or developed back whatsoever. Now, like I said, you don't have to do everything so compressive. Like, you don't have to do a super extended deadlift. You don't have to do a super rounded back deadlift. You don't have to do everything bilateral. So here's an example of me doing a kickstand heavy deadlift. I'm still getting like a huge hypertrophy stimulus. I'm still going really heavy, but I'm in a position to where I'm not just compressing everything all together. There is still relative motion. There's still a component of rotation to this if you look at the hips. And this is like as much tension as you can get on your butt too. So just because you are doing something that's a little bit more functional doesn't mean you can't build muscle. And just because you're building muscle doesn't mean you can't be doing something that is functional and actually preserving or maybe even increasing your movement options. So if you are just one of these typical compressed lifters who, when they deadlift, they just really excellently rotate everything, their knees go out, their hips go out, they compress these lower tissues down here, they just round and go through their back. Like, yeah, that's very compressive. That's taking away relative motion. That's going to eventually restrict movement options and could lead to pain. But whenever you do a setup like this, I'm slightly stagger stance. I have a very slight rotation into that side as I'm going. And so it's not the same as flattening out, locking everything up, and dumping over, and taking away movement options. This is going through relative motion, following the propulsive cycle, and preserving movement options. So there's an in-between, okay? You don't have to be skinny and good at training for running, and you don't have to be only jacked with absolutely zero mobility. What is this? Oh, this looks cool. I mean, this shit looks cool, and they're really good at their marketing. Look at this. This is a great video. I mean, all this stuff is good to know. Oh, she just threw the kettlebell. This is awesome, actually. I would definitely slam my dick with that, though, and accidentally it would bounce back up at me. It's got to be so much harder to use than she's looking. Is this like one take? Yeah, that's awesome. Now let's go do some Bulgarians. Like, is that allowed? Okay, so up next, we're going to look at another training system that I would say is quite comparable to functional patterns. I would say it could be pretty functional as well for some people. And I mean, right? I guess if you're like Riley Reid getting ready for a scene for Black, this could be a very functional. This guy's 100% serious. I wasn't sure. Like, I tried to see if he was just joking around, but no, he's all about it. And he's using these ropeless ropes that basically are like a huge double-sided dildo. And I mean, what makes it funny is that he's not joking around. He doesn't seem to be joking. I mean, his whole page doesn't have like much humor at all. And in this, he seems dead serious in the comments and stuff. But I mean, is it a good tool? Would you use this if it helped? Definitely not in a public gym. Like this one right here, this one is extra ridiculous. Like, what is this? Like, I feel like he's enjoying that a little too much. And like I said, there are some people who this could be great training for. Wow. Yeah. So I don't know. That's probably not a tool that I'm gonna like add to my arsenal, but good for him. He looks to be enjoying himself. I feel like he's doing a lot of visualization as he's doing this. All right, what do we got next? So the Olympia is this weekend. It's probably going to be done before this video comes out. So these are a couple girls from the wellness class, and man, these girls are getting insane. Their legs look nuts. Their asses are ridiculous. I mean, look at that. That is absolutely crazy. I mean, they're starting to get to a pretty big limit, like pretty hard, maybe losing a little bit of femininity, which this division was supposed to not do that. So it'll be interesting to see how they judge this year. What I think possibly they could do would be to like split up the judging kind of the way that they do for the, was it the fitness? So if you're not familiar, fitness judging is judged first. They do like a figure round. They judge the bodies, and that is worth 1/3 of the scores. And then they do the routine. That's like their finals, and that is worth 2/3 of the scores. So the final score is a mix of that, weighted more heavily towards their performance, a little bit less towards their physique. So sometimes the girl who wins doesn't have the best physique. Now, I think that they could introduce another round of judging that maybe wasn't weighted quite as heavily as the finals. We could still weigh the finals as 2/3, but we could have like a preliminary round that's not worth as much, where we just bring them out in like something totally unflattering. Like we can't really notice their body at all. Like bring them out like in, I don't know, like a moo-moo or burlap sack. It doesn't matter, like huge, heavy sweats. And then don't give them time to like do their makeup either. Like just get them straight out of bed. Like give them like 10 minutes tops to prep themselves. So they come in, you can't see their bodies, their face isn't all done up. And then the judges just judge them off of their face. And that's it. And I think that could do a good job of like helping keeping the women from getting too masculine in the face, because, hey, nobody loves a fat ass more than me. But when you're having somebody look back at you and the face is like, maybe a little bit more masculine, it doesn't matter how good the ass is in front of you. When that face is looking back at you, it's kind of like, is it worth it? This is a big price I'm paying to enjoy this crazy ass. So, and I'm not talking about these girls in particular at all, but I just think it's a place that we're going, and we shouldn't let these girls go there. And like I said, don't rate that round as much. Just have it be like 1/3, because it's like in real life, like I don't know about you, but I'm not rating an ass and a face the same. Like give me a 10 ass and a 5 face before you give me a 10 face and a 5 ass. Like it's definitely worth double for me, and I think it'll just keep us from getting a little too crazy. Like these girls need something. I mean, everybody needs something. They like these competitors. They need some sort of governor to like put on them. They need some sort of hard stop. And so I think doing 1/3 of the points just for your face, maybe we could do it like a beauty pageant type of thing and actually have them do like a quick interview. We could put their voice, how it sounds into account. I don't know. Not trying to sound like a dick, but like I said, we just got to regulate this kind of shit. I sound like an asshole. I'm just fucking around. But for real though, I do think that like steroid abuse in women is something that should be talked about a little bit, because it affects you. You don't realize it until you're in it. And if you're a girl and you take it too far, you're never coming back. And it's just so easy to get sucked into your head where you're at currently, the scene, who you're around. And man, but these are some great asses though. So I don't know. I'm not even saying they're at a limit now where it's too much for me, but I can just see it going there as far as like the masculinity. I mean, this is still a worthy trade-off for me. All right, what else do we got? So China is coming out with AI robot wives for men. So this is awesome. I asked my girl if she'd give me one for Christmas. It's interesting because it's like, what role does this robot have in your life, and how is the AI? Is this like AI powered wife, like programmed to be like a wife and not be cool with you going out and fucking around? Because that'd be kind of cool if you just knew you had this smoking hot, completely, say it was like completely human like AI thing at home for you to come home to. But if you like struck out of the bar, but you could go try to hit on girls like every night and see what you could get. And if nothing, like, oh well, I got this smoke show robot I can go fuck. So, or are they going to be programmed to be like a real wife and not be cool with that? And like, you have to like be dedicated to them. That'd be fucked up, huh? I'm sure there'd be some losers who, would be dedicated to them and fall in love with it, even if it was, you could do whatever. Which, I mean, would you do that? Like, if there was just, you couldn't tell the difference. It was so perfect, and you couldn't tell the difference between it being real and like AI. would you be with an AI robot that you could fuck, that could make all your food? Let's say you could still get kids somehow through some other method. You could do surrogate or something. Like, would you be down to be with a 100% AI robot? Could you believe the lie? Would it be a lie at that point? Like, when does AI become real life? It's like, I mean, if I'm thinking about it, like, there's probably going to be AI robots very soon that are less AI than girls I have dated or interacted with in my past. Like, some of these people out there are so like dumb and fake and vapid and lacking substance that I think an AI robot might be a step up, like mentally and emotionally, actually. Yeah, I don't think I could be okay with being something that was fake, even if everything was perfect about it. I'd rather have something that was a little flawed, like, crazy Latinas. So this popped up. The Lakers were running a promotion where they had the Laker girls do a lunch date with homeless people. And so, yeah, I don't understand what's going on here. Didn't they just sell for like $10 billion? And there's supposed to be like all kinds of ritz and glamour associated with the Laker girls and the Lakers. And they're here at Carl's Jr. Doing this with people that are never going to spend money to come see a game. But I mean, at least this guy, he's all about it. He's enjoying it. He's ready to go. He's got his pants tucked up high. He is going to have a good time and enjoy every minute of being around these women. And interesting style. I mean, I love the do-rag plus hat plus the fanny pack. Like, he's not afraid to be bold. And we've got this little fellow who, he couldn't look any more like a sixth grader who's getting ready for picture day. And this chick's look giant next to him. What the fuck? How tiny is this dude? Poor guy. But good for him. And cool thing about being his size is his head level is like right next to the tall Asian girl's boobs. So there's that. We got this guy who looks very uncomfortable to be there. He doesn't look happy to be next to these beautiful women at all, but he is. I think that's why he's so awkward, but very uncomfortable looking. Like he's almost trying to get away from this one for some reason. I mean, I get it. I would choose this one too, but. And whoa, this guy is like a really fat, bizarro Artie Lang, except he has a nose, but man, yeah, he looks like not the most excited to be there, and that's something considering he's probably got the best looking girls with him. I mean, you gotta give these girls credit. They are like holding like a good poker face. They look happy and excited to be there, and they're all, look at this, like they're all almost like matching. They're showing their midriffs. This fucking guy, look at this guy. I mean, okay, this dude, first of all, the fucking disrespect. So this is a Carl's Jr. thing. He shows up rocking a McDonald's shirt, and no one else is touching the girls. This fucking creepy guy has his arms wrapped around both of them, and look at the difference in their faces. Like, look at there versus there. Like, this guy's keeping to himself. He knows he's disgusting. I'm just happy to take a picture near these beautiful creatures. This guy's like, yeah, I'm going to take advantage of this moment and make these chicks super uncomfortable. I mean, look at their faces. They look like they are in a hostage situation. Like, why the fuck are they having these girls do this? Like, what has happened to the Lakers? Like, look at that. She's like, someone call the police. Like, please get the fuck off of me, dude. Like, man, what the fuck? And then this guy, whoa. I mean, I get it. I mean, I don't know what's going on in the pockets in the pants. Yeah, I just, maybe he hasn't been around attractive women like ever in his life, and he doesn't know how to control himself. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Let's move on. This guy, he's got his fucking arm around one of them again. Jesus Christ, what is happening here? Like, man, I don't just want to shit on people. That's fucked up, but it's like, this dude looked like his whole face has been bitten up by venomous snakes, and he's also got his arm wrapped around this chick who, it's funny, you can look at it, look, she's got the hostage face grin, like, fuck, this guy's touching me. At least he's a little more gentle with it. I think it's just barely like on her, but she doesn't have him touching her at all. She's smiling. She's like, oh, fuck you, bitch. She's like, haha, I'm so glad it's not me. It sucks to be you. And now she's the hottest one too, by the way. You know, I got a thing for the Asians. And then we have this nice Asian man who, of course, is going to be respectful and not grabbing onto these girls. I mean, he's wearing a Washington Capitals shirt. Could support LA if you're not going to be the Lakers, at least. I mean, I guess we don't. Is there a team? I don't even know if there's a hockey team. I don't know sports at all. I bet you these girls were much happier to have him. He's well groomed, put together, versus some of these other guys that I would say would look homeless, but they're far too like obese to be homeless. And then I don't know what the situation is here, and they've got their arms around the girl, but it's okay because you don't really know what's going on. And I'm not trying to be mean, but I think in today's society, like, if you're gonna look like this and it's gonna be a total guessing game, you need to wear a name tag if you're the type to get upset if someone gets it wrong. If you don't care, then you don't need a name tag. But if you're gonna get upset because me or somebody else gets your pronoun wrong, like you need to clarify it for us because I don't know what's going on here. There are tits, but I mean I can see a lot of situations where someone would have tits. I don't know, but either way, I'm surprised they didn't have like some kind of no touching policy. And then what do we have here? This guy, this guy, I think he was in a Dave Chappelle skit or something. Now this guy does look like he came off the street, but good for him. I mean, wait, does he have his hand on her ass? I did not see that. Look at this. He literally has his hand just resting on this girl's ass, and she's just taking it like a champ. Look at that. What a fucking creep. Like I feel so bad for these girls. Like Lakers, come on. What is happening now? I hope this is like some sort of hazing thing and these are like new Lakers girls or something. I can't believe he has his hand right on this girl's ass. I did not see that. And I mean, another giant guy, at least he like has his whole belly covering. He wore a big enough shirt and he completely pushed this girl out of frame, but he's not grabbing them, not being creepy. Thank you for being respectful. I mean, you got a little bit of boob sweat, but that comes with the territory. And look how happy they are that you're not being a creep with them. They probably just see every single person coming up like, please don't grab me. All right, so I'm going to leave it there because I think things might get a little dicey from this point on. So if you are interested in the rest, the kind of uncensored, the ridiculous shit, it's going to be available in my members area. It's for tier 2 and above members, so it just starts like at $5 a month. And I'm just going to put some of the more like ridiculous shit that some people don't necessarily want to see on there. So if you're just more into just the fitness stuff, I'll keep that more on the main channel, but the ridiculous stuff I'll try to put a little bit more on the members channel. So that is all I got for you today, and just remember, it's a new world. Okay, it's a new dawn out there. He is no longer Dr. Mike, he's Mr. Mike. I appreciate the support. Peace.